Second episode begins as OTC ends, and Mark S. disappears from Mark Scout's consciousness, leaving only a confused Mark looking at Devon and her baby while everyone at the party stares at him. Devon hands the baby over to Rickon. She hugs her brother, verbally checking in with him, confirming that the Mark S. persona is gone. Devon's called away for the baby, leaving Mark alone, holding a framed photograph from his wedding day of himself and his late wife, Gemma. Mark's Innie knows Gemma as Ms. Casey, Lumon's very much alive wellness director. At the Lumon building, Helena Egan stares out a window, holding a hand to her throat. A door opens behind her. Two men enter. The older man stares intently into her face before declaring her a fetid moppet. She greets him, "Father." Her father turns and leaves. She turns to the other man and tells him they'll have someone from the severed floor get in touch with the Outies. The man emphasizes the importance of finding out everyone they spoke with and quickly. Dylan leaves Lumon, walking slowly and holding an ice compress on his head. As the lights go out, one set at a time, Milchick watches Dylan leave from an upper balcony. Elsewhere later, Helena directs Milchick to reach out to the Outies and find out what the Innies said during the OTC and who heard them. He asks if he should fire them. Helena advises him to let Keir guide his hand. They part ways. Helena heads to a conference room. The other man from the previous scene joins her, and they enter the room together. At the long table, Ms. Coble sits alone. She stands up when they enter, but Helena invites her to sit back down. The man sits at the far end of the table, and Helena takes a seat at the head next to Coble. Having outlined the actions already taken to mitigate the OTC revelations, Helena expresses gratitude to Coble for her quick actions and invites her to return to Lumon. Coble points out she deserves an apology. After a pause, Helena apologizes on behalf of herself, her father, and the board. Coble accepts the apology and begins laying out plans for damage control. Helena interrupts, explaining that Coble won't be returning to her previous position. She offers Coble a promotion to the Severance Advisory Council, a new initiative. Coble insists her abilities are best utilized in managing the severed floor. Helena tells her that Milchick has been promoted to floor manager. Milchick leaves the Lumon building carrying a motorcycle helmet. As Coble accuses Helena, her father, and the board of wanting to silence her out of fear, Milchick starts his motorcycle and rides off. Coble agrees to think over the offer. Helena tells her the man, Mr. Drummond, will see her out. Milchick continues his trip through the dark winter night. Inside Lumon, Helena prepares to record a statement explaining the things Helly R. said from her podium during OTC as a result of mixing alcohol and medication. Milchick knocks on Irving's door. When Irving answers, Milchick prods him with questions to discern if he remembers the OTC events and if his Innie spoke to anyone. Irving is cagey with his responses, and Milchick fires him with a show of regret. As Helena apologizes for the negative effects of her outburst about Severance, Milchick finds Dylan at his home. Outside, he tells Dylan that his Innie got in a fight, and he is being let go. Dylan reacts with panic. Milchick expresses his regrets. In a quick flashback, Irving is incredulous he's been fired and offers to pay for any damages his Innie caused. In the recording booth, Helena begs forgiveness for her bad choices and blames it on her fallible humanity. Rickon walks a guest to the door, apologizing for the drama of the evening. He returns to the kitchen where Mark and Devon are discussing the meaning of Mark's Innie screaming, "She's alive." Rickon suggests that Mark was talking about the baby, Eleanor. Mark and Devon's conversation becomes sharper in tone as Mark accuses Devon of not believing the statement was about Eleanor. Rickon tries to smooth things over by reminding them that Mark's Innie, or Worky in his terminology, really liked Rickon's book. The doorbell chimes and Rickon answers it. Mark and Devon hear Mr. Milchick's voice at the door. Mark walks over to meet him as he enters the house. Milchick offers to answer any questions Mark has. Devon's giving Milchick a skeptical look from a distance. She doesn't respond to his greeting but covers the wedding photo with a dish rag as he walks away. Milchick explains about OTC. Mark says he was never told OTC was a thing. Milchick replies that it's covered in the Severance handbook. He tells the three of them that one of Mark's office mates activated OTC. When he tells them Mark's Innie was in the house for 39 minutes, Devon volunteers that she spoke with him. She refuses to tell Milchick what they talked about. When he tries to discover how Mark feels, Devon distracts him by asking about Coble. Milchick admits his former supervisor is quite unwell. Mark tells him that Coble lives next door to him. Milchick intimates that Innie's distress can be blamed on her. He promises Koble will never manage the severed floor again, nor will she contact them in the outie world. Mark tells him he's got nothing to share, and they're all very tired. Milchick gets up to leave and expresses hope that he'll see Mark S. in the morning. Mark isn't sure he wants to go in, and Milchick describes Innie's attempt at escaping through OTC as brave. He comments it would be a shame to reward it with non-existence. He leaves. At Irving's house, Irving sits with his dog, looking at a wall of canvases painted with the same image of a long dark hallway with a door at the end with a red light above it. He pulls a map out of his pocket. It has the name Bert Goodman handwritten on it, with an X drawn below the name. Milchick heads home on his motorbike on the highway. Dylan sits on his couch, staring blankly at the TV screen. Helena sits in the Lumon offices, reviewing surveillance recordings of the severed floor. She pauses on an image of Mark S. walking through the halls. In the outie world, Mark returns home and gives his neighbors' house a hard look. The car's in the driveway. He goes over and knocks. No one answers. He goes back to his house. In Lumon, Helena watches Mark S. and Helly R. interact just before leaving the office the night of the OTC. When Helly R. rushes back out of the elevator to kiss Mark S., Helena gasps. She plays the scene again, riveted. Later, she sits alone in the conference room. She stands up when she sees Milchick drive into the parking lot. Mark stands by his window in the morning, drinking from a mug. Devin texts him to meet her for breakfast, her treat. He considers it. Dylan drives to a job interview at a door factory, very nervous. He sits down with Mr. Saliba, and they bond over a love of doors. It's going very well until Dylan discloses he was a severed employee at Lumon. Saliba finds the procedure abhorrent and will not hire him because of his severance. In the car, he ignores his phone's buzzing, but when it goes off again, he tells his wife he would have answered the first call if it was good news. He says he'll go pick up some baby wipes and come home. At a diner, Devin and Mark debrief about Milchick's visit and wonder where Selvig is. She suggests they reach out to his Innie to confirm what he meant at the party. Mark tells her he's going to quit Lumon. She suggests that he should find out what Milchick's visit was about first. Mark reminds Devin that he identified Gemma's body after she died. Devin agrees but wants more confirmation that his Innie wasn't saying that Gemma's alive. Mark becomes incensed by what he says is an obscene obsession. He leaves. At a nearby booth, Mr. Drummond sips a cup of coffee. He has the word frolic tattooed on his hand. Back at home, Mark feeds his fish and watches for signs of life next door. Irving finds a phone booth and makes a call. He leaves a voicemail that his Innie received his message. A car drives up and stops, its engine idling. Irving heads home. Inside the car, Bert sits, watching him. Mark's changing a light bulb when the doorbell chimes. There's knocking as well. Milchick is waiting at his door with a gift basket. Mark invites him in to talk. Milchick offers him a 20% pay raise if he returns. Furthermore, he promises that there will be a full investigation into Innie's allegations and regular inspections by third-party organizations. Mark's taken aback. Finally, Milchick asks if Mark is still mourning Gemma. He tells Mark that his Innie is happy and loves his work. His Innie is completely ignorant of Mark's pain and suffering. Milchick promises that the joy and satisfaction his Innie is experiencing will be his too, with time. On Monday morning, Mark sits in his car in the Lumon parking lot for a long time before grabbing his lanyard and going to work. From an office window, Helena and Milchick watch. Turning around, Helena asks Mr. Drummond if he's satisfied. He comments to Natalie sitting next to him that Devin is more uppity than Mark. Natalie asks Milchick who Mark's new office mates will be. He tells them about Mark W., Gwendolyn W., and Dario R. Drummond is unimpressed. Milchick hopes the team will gel. Helena is unconcerned if they get along. The priority is that Mark returns to work and completes a project called Cold Harbor. Outside the severed floor elevator, Mark is frisked and wanned by the security guard, Judd. Mark enters at the start of the day and exits at the end of the day several times, greeting Judd each time. The final time, the clock shows 9:15, but Mark says, "Good night, Judd." Time catches up to the events of Season 2, Episode 1. Hello, Ms. Koble, and Mark's desperate attempt to contact the board is heard over a recording. Milchick, Helena, and Mr. Drummond sit, listening to the recording. Milchick takes responsibility for disrupting business. Drummond informs them that the board is giving in to Mark's demands for his team, including Helly R. A doorbell chimes. Milchick's on Irving's doorstep with a gift basket. Dylan comes out onto his deck to find Milchick standing in his driveway with a gift basket. As Mark approaches Lumon's front doors, Mark Wilkins is being escorted out of the building by security and is causing a scene, furious at being fired. Mark looks but doesn't register any familiarity. Once inside, there is a 3-minute-long camera shot as Mark, Dylan, Irving, and Helly pass through the locker room, jet at security, and descend in the elevator. That night, Mark drives home and sees Mrs. Selvig packing her car. He confronts her. She asks if a pineapple was involved in his decision to stay with Lumon. When she begins to drive off, Mark jumps in front of her car, demanding to know what is going on. There is a long silence. He asks if she knows something about Gemma. Another long silence before she erupts into screaming, laying on her horn and hitting the gas. He jumps out of the way, and she races down the road.